So good morning and welcome to everyone who's here today. We have a nice big crowd. I'm so happy to see you all. And we're all here to hear Shelley Piedmont. I'll introduce her in a moment. But first, I wanted to give you some backgrounds about the Accelerator Career Group. If we have not had the pleasure of meeting, I am Mindy Stern. I am a co-founder and host of the Accelerator Career Group. And every month for the last 5 years, we have hosted some fabulous presenter to educate, illuminate, influence, motivate you in your job search. And today's speaker, Shelley, is going to be speaking about something that's not just if you are looking for a job, but all of us need to know our strengths, right? Because we're always talking about ourselves. Whenever we introduce ourselves to someone, we need to know who we are and what we're about and why we do what we do. So I think today's presentation is going to be especially informative for all of us. If this is your first time at an Accelerator event, if you wouldn't mind putting a 1 in the chat, that would be great. And I'd love to welcome you personally. I think we saw some people. Mike and Melissa, welcome. Who else is first timers? Oh, Ivan and Paula and Nilam and Dennis. Wow. Very nice. Thank you so much for joining us. And you are welcome to join us. We have a private LinkedIn community that you are welcome to join. And Lori is here. She's going to put, she put the link into the chat. If you'd like to join, please go right there and I will welcome you in a little bit later after our show. And if you and I are not connected, please reach out on LinkedIn and connect with me. I'd love to get to know all of you a little bit better. We launched the Accelerator Career Group in 2020 at the height of COVID to provide job seekers with a supportive community during a really challenging time. We have grown from a really small group of 6 people to over 700, and I am honored to have been the career coach for all of these people. And I've helped people with LinkedIn profile makeovers and job search strategies and interview prep, all to fast track the job search. So as I said, every month we host a new speaker. And next month, Becky Amble, who is an AI strategist and a marketing leader, will be speaking to us. She is going to, she's written 6 books, which is pretty good. I'm proud of my 1 book. So Becky to do 6, you know, we'll just have to see. But anyway, she's an AI expert, which is amazing because we all need to get better at AI. We're all learning, right? We're all learning this. We're all in learning mode. So the more we can learn, the better off we are. And one thing that she's going to do that I want to share with you today is that she's offered to do a hot seat demo for 1 participant. So if you want something to be utilized next month, I'll give you the date. It is on October 16th, and that link is in the chat now. You can register right now for it. On October 16th, if you know that you'll be joining us and you would like Becky to use some of your information to, I don't know, do research or to fix your resume or whatever, she's going to show you how AI will do that. So if you're interested in that, and you want to talk to me, you can DM me later in LinkedIn, or you can tell me right now in the chat, just write hot seat, and we will have a chat about what you might like to share with Becky on that day. All righty. So, one other housekeeping matter. I collect nuggets, golden nuggets, all during our conversation today. Shelley's going to be saying great things. You guys are going to be saying fabulous things. I collect them, and tomorrow I will be posting these nuggets. In case anyone missed our call, they will have an opportunity to hear the replay or see the replay, and also to see my post, which will have a lot of the golden nuggets. So I'm going to ask you to participate with me. When you hear something that resonates with you, that really makes impact on you, put it right into the chat and just say nugget, and right next to it, write whatever your nugget is, and you might be in my post tomorrow. So that's what I'm asking you to do. It also helps to remind yourself. It puts it in your brain when you're writing something. So I encourage you to find the nuggets, and I will be able to go through all those later. All right. So I'm so excited to invite Shelley to the floor. She is a friend and a colleague, and we met on LinkedIn. Like, I have met so many fantastic people on LinkedIn, and never ever underestimate the value of commenting, because that is how I create so many relationships on LinkedIn. It's remarkable, just remarkable. And we have formed these great friendships. And I see a lot of people on the call today who I have also interacted with and commented on, and really started to forge really fabulous relationships. So yes, Linda, comments are golden, 100%. And maybe, I'm thinking maybe a little bit even more important when you're networking than the post itself, I think, is the comment and dialogue between us. So I'm going to give Shelley the floor, because she is the expert in YouMap. And I'm going to ask her to, tell us a little bit about herself and what you'd like to share with the group.
Sure. First of all, good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. And I'm so happy to be here with Mindy to share the insights that I have about using this particular tool. I've been a career coach full time for about 5 years. And before that, I was a recruiter and also an HR professional. So it has been a joy for me to be able to be, really on the other side of that desk to help people, with their careers and their job search. Now, one of the things that as I became a career coach and I worked with a lot of people on, what do they want to really do? And it's a hard one for many, many people because oftentimes you find yourself in a career and you realize it's not working for you, but you may not know why. And the other part of that question is, well, if it isn't working, what do you do instead? So I want to start by telling the story of my daughter-in-law. So my daughter-in-law graduated from art school and always thought she would be an artist. And, like many who graduate from school, she's looking for a job. And she ends up in a organization where she is a graphic artist. And for, many people, that would be like an ideal job. But what ended up happening was that job didn't really work for her. It didn't sit right for her. She was very frustrated in that job. And so one of the things she asked me, because I'm a career coach, she said, can you help me with this? Because I know this is not right, but I don't know why. And so we did the YouMap, which I will explain all the parts of that. And here are some insights that she got from it. So what does she do really well? Well, one, she's a leader. She was the student body president of her school. She also was really good with people, and she did a lot with building communities. The other thing for her was she's very good with strategy. That lady is always thinking, oh, what can we do here? What can we do there? When we went to look at her job, what we found was that the job did not help her, or allow her, I should say, to do those things. It was a lot of really prescribed work that she had to, go in. She said it was a very chaotic environment. Personnel were changing all the time. Her boss would one day want her to do this and turn around and say, no, 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 do something. And that didn't work well for her. And it was very much solo work. She felt very siloed. So when we talked about that, she had a aha moment, like, oh, okay, now it makes sense. So then we talked about what works for her, given that she really is very entrepreneurial. She community. The woman knows so many people. And she is a developer. She loves to teach and help people grow. And based on all that information, she is going to be opening next month a DIY craft store. So she's going to be able to take all her entrepreneurial pursuits. She's going to build that sense of community because it's going to be a gathering place. She's got the creativity part of the job, and she also has her good strategy and organization skills. That's just an example of how, when you know what works for you, you can build your career around that. So instead of being that square peg in the round hole, she actually now has created the role that works for her in the creative field, which is what she really enjoys. And I'm so proud that I was able to help her get over, I needed to do whatever, most creatives do that graduated from her school, and get away from pigeonholing her into a career that really wasn't going to work for her. So that is the power of knowing yourself so that you can actually thrive in your career. So today I want to talk about more in depth about what this YouMap that I did with her is all about. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And okay, you should be able to see that now, correct? Everything's good? Okay, good.
Yes, can you make it larger, Shelley?
Yeah. Is that too large? It seems like it's too large on my screen.
No, you can go into the slide mode. Right now you're in the presenter mode. Go into presenter mode.
Okay, yeah, I thought I did. Sorry. There we go.
Perfect.
There we go. So YouMap, actually, I was looking for many, actually, I think it was almost 2 years, for a tool that I could use, especially with people with career change. That was kind of my goal. And I looked at a lot of different tools because there's tons of them out there. And I came across YouMap. Kristen Sherry developed this tool. And I thought, oh, this really is what I'm looking for because it makes total sense to me. And when I trained, actually, G, who's in our audience, she was in my cohort when we were training to be YouMap coaches. So let me explain a little bit more about what this tool does and why I was so excited about it. It looks at what we call the 4 pillars of, kind of career success. Traditionally, we've looked at passion. You probably have heard this, follow your passion. Well, you can be passionate about something and the job doesn't work or your career doesn't work. So instead, what we want to do is look at these 4 avenues. We call it the 4 pillars. One is your strengths. Okay. So how do you define strengths? Those are your inherent natural talents. These are things you're born with. You don't even have to think about them. They just naturally come out of you, like my daughter-in-law's leadership. Everything she does, you can see that leadership. And she doesn't, you ask her, how do you lead? She really can't tell you. She just says, I just do it. So that's the natural inherited strengths. The next thing we look at is the values, your why. Okay. And, it wasn't too many decades ago, we never talked about values. But this is, why you do the things that you do. And that's why it's important that you really understand what your values are. So oftentimes we'll have values that are with us from, our childhood, but our values also can change over time. Different circumstances in our life may cause our values to change. So we do need to know those. The next thing we have on here is preferred skills. We can do a lot of things. We learn in our lifetime a lot of things to do, like what we can do. But there are some things that we prefer to do more than others. And so we need to define that, because a good career for you is one where you get to do the things that you prefer, and you get to not do or limit the things that we call burnout skills, the things that are going to make you just go crazy. You can do them well often, but you're not that interested in it. And then the last thing here is your personality, your character traits. It's kind of where you kind of gravitate. So in the example of my daughter-in-law, she gravitates to what we would call the social area. She is what in the YouMap term we call a helper. And so anything that is community involvement, where she gets to deal with people, that's her good space. That's where she really enjoys it. So knowing that is helpful for her to know that she should go and look at places, jobs, careers where she has that interaction. So that's the 4 pillars. So what we're going to do is just kind of break that down a little bit to give you a little bit more insight into them. So the first pillar is the strengths I talked about. That's the innate talents that you have. And we use the Clifton Strengths for this. It's a great tool to help you understand your strengths. And oftentimes you sort of know this, but it gives you a language around it, which is really important. So Clifton Strengths divides into outward-facing strengths, those strengths you have when you interact with others, and inward-facing strengths. And then there's 4 different themes that your strengths can fall into. So in that outward-facing strengths, we have what we call the relating themes. And this is how you build those relationships or connect with others. And there's many ways that you can do that. I give an example here for those that are includers. That's a strength. And what they do, those are the people that naturally will find the people that are on the outskirts of the group, and they will bring them in. That's a natural strength. They do it automatically. But there are others who use different strengths. So we have, like, my daughter-in-law, she has a strength that's called individualization. She looks at each person as a distinct person, not as like a person of a group. And so she's trying to get to know them individually with everything that makes them up. That's her strength. So it's important when you know your strengths to then, and how you relate to others, that you can lean into it when you have the opportunity to do this. The other thing I do love about using YouMap and Clifton Strengths, especially if you are a job seeker, is that when you know, for example, you are an includer, in this example, you can talk to that in your interviews. You can talk to that in your marketing material, your LinkedIn. You can talk about it in networking, because it is something you do better than any other, well, most other people, let's put it that way. Okay, so that is one outward-facing strength. Another area is the influencing themes, and these are how you actually influence other people. Now, traditionally, we often think of this as a salesperson, but there are many, many ways that you can influence others. So I give the example here of someone we would call a maximizer. And those are people that always are looking at how to take something good and make it great. And they influence people by their enthusiasm, their ability to look at, a problem or a situation and being able to figure out a different or better way to do that. So that's a strength that they can do better than most other people. So again, knowing that, you can lean into that. So those are two of the areas where outward facing strengths. So when we get to the inward facing strengths, you've got the executing themes. Okay, this is, I call it the get stuff done themes. And for many roles, this is really important. And if you've got a strength or more than one in this area, that can be really helpful for you. So I give an example here of responsibility. So a lot of people have responsibility as a strength, and that is you take ownership. If you say you're going to do something, you will do it. These people are great for managers because they don't have to micromanage them. They are the people that it doesn't matter if there's obstacles, if they need to work extra, they will do it. Now, the other thing for people who have the strength, they don't like to be micromanaged because they will do it anyway. You don't need to tell them 10 million times. Okay, so knowing that is really helpful. And then the last inward facing strength is the thinking things. Just kind of we process information and think about the world. So there's many different strengths in this area. I'm giving an example here of futuristic. So people that have futuristic, they are always looking, 6 months, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, decades down the road. And they're imagining what that could look like. And so in an organization where they want that, these people will be able to excel because they naturally think that way. So this is an example of using things that you innately can do well and understanding where they fall, and then being able to create or look at roles where you get to use those strengths. Because when you get to use your strengths, you're more engaged, you're more productive, and generally you're happier at work. And that's important. So we've talked about the strengths. The next thing we're going to talk about, well, before we get to values, here are some questions you can ask yourself to kind of understand what those strengths might be. What seems to come so easily that I don't even think about it? Because remember, the people that have the strength, oftentimes it just comes naturally, they don't even think about it. And what are others amazed I can do that I think it's no big deal? Think about those questions. If you can come up with some answers, that could be an indication of your strengths. Okay, now we'll get to values. And so these are what are important to you that guide you. I often say when there's a mismatch of values in your job or even in an organization, it feels like after a day of work, you've got to like shower because you're going to have to wipe all that off of you. It's that sort of feeling that there's a mismatch. So what you want to think about is, what does your internal compass tell you is important to you? Okay. You should have some sense of that. What do you think about during the day? When you make decisions, what do you take into account when you're making those decisions? Because that can tell you what matters to you most. And then what brings you fulfillment? If you're doing work that falls in that area, what makes you feel good? Like, yes, I'm contributing. So you can ask yourself, what to me are values that are not non-negotiable that I will always want to lean into? Those are very important to explain your why. Now, I'm giving some examples of values here because one of the important things to remember is just because it's not your value doesn't mean it's not somebody else's value. And values come in all flavors. So you can have meaningful work as a value, respect, but others might have status or success or creativity or even fun as a value. It's important to know not what others value, but what you value, because that's going to be your compass to where you can find work where you can thrive. So that's why you want to remember that. So that's pillar number 2, values. The next, we're going to go to skills. And what really energizes you when you get to do this? So I always give the example of I was really good at when we used to have in HR all the personnel files, and you would have a stack of paperwork that needed to go into it. I was really good at being able to put the right paperwork in the right file. I knew my alphabet. I knew where to put things. I could organize it. I was good at it, but did I like doing it? Absolutely not. It was a burnout skill for me. I would put it off as long as I could until usually the pile got too big because it just wasn't a skill that I was particularly interested in. And what I find a lot of times with job seekers, they will look at a job description and say, yeah, I can do this. But the problem is for you to have a thriving career, you need to make sure that the majority of the things you have to do in a job are things that you prefer to do. If you're doing mostly the skills that are burnout, this is going to be a huge problem for you. So one of the things to think about in this area is what am I good at versus what I want to do? Okay, make sure that you're thinking the difference between that because that will decide for you what is your motivating skills that you like. If I get to do that, yay, I'm so excited versus, oh, I've got to do that. Okay, so some things that you can ask yourself to try to understand the difference is, what do you spend your time outside of work? Things that you've got more control of. Side projects, volunteer work, just your hobbies or interests. What are some of the things and skills that you like to use? That might be an indication of your motivating skills. Another way to think about it is, if I'm using the skill, does it seem like, oh, I'm looking at my watch all the time, or does time fly? I'm like, it's 5 o'clock already. How did that happen? That can give you some indication of whether that is a motivating skill for you or it's a burnout skill. Okay. So that is our pillar 3, preferred skills. And then the last pillar that we look at in the YouMap system is personality. We all have different personalities and we're attracted to different things. So it's important to understand your personality and how that can help you find what actually will interest you. Because if you're interested in it, you can be engaged in it. So in this section, we talk about 6 different types of personalities. Now, in this YouMap, we actually will rank them, and we'll have a first 1 and 2, and there's a combination there. But in general, what you want to think about is, do you fall in any of these categories? The first one is the doers, okay? And these are the people who they like to work with their hands. Essentially, they want something tangible that they can say, I did this at the end of the day. So for those people, they tend to gravitate to those types of jobs where they feel like, oh, there's something that I can say, yep, I got that done during the day. So things like plumbers or chefs or things like that, they could be the doers because that makes sense for them. They're focused on the tangibles. Now you can also have the thinkers. Now they are, we call the investigative type. They love to sit there and think about problems and challenges. They're the ones with the spreadsheets. They're doing the deep research. And when they get to do that, they love it. They're using their brain and they don't care about, do I have to have, a product at the end of the day? They're just involved in just thinking about and coming up with solutions to problems. Those are the thinkers. The next groups are, we call the creators. They're very imaginative and they want things to be more original. So they take that to them in terms of how they approach work. So it doesn't mean that they have to be an artist. They can use their creativity in many ways. So they could be a person who is coming up with interesting visuals, let's say, to help them explain something. That could be using that creativity. So if you fall in that category, it's thinking about, well, how can I bring creativity into what I do? And then another type is the helpers. They are the ones that love to serve others. They're the ones that feel like their time and effort should uplift others. So again, they're motivated by making a difference. These people tend to gravitate into teaching, healthcare, social work, things like that. And then the last two is the enterprising type. There's the persuaders. They are the people that we think of as the CEOs, C-suite people, judges. They're the natural leaders, and they love to take the initiative and bring people with them to, solve problems and things like that. That's an environment they enjoy. And then lastly, we have conventional types, okay? They're the organizers. I kind of liken them to the conductors on the trains. They keep things in order and on time. They are detail oriented, they are organized, and most organizations need conventional types. Because let's think about it. If you've got a bunch of thinkers and creators, you need people that can understand that and then make it organized so that it could be repeatable, that they can, have a place to put that so people can find it, whatever it might be. So the organizers, they tend to be the one that puts structure and process in place. Okay. So you want to figure out, oops, did I go? Wait a minute. Okay. So what you want to think about in the personality types is what makes you lose track of time? Okay. What kind of things engage you? Do you want to do volunteer work or mentorship? Do you like to start a side business? Do you like to read scientific articles? Do you like to organize your computer, your worktop? What is it that interests you? I always kind of ask this question. If you go on YouTube and you're just looking, what type of topics are you most interested in? And that you will go down and you will continue to look through those. That can give you an indication of what your personality type is. And then that can be really helpful for you to figure out from a career perspective what you want to do. Okay, so putting this all together, we talked about strengths. And one thing about strengths is they are expressed through our values. Okay, and then our values are our why. Why, oops, sorry about that. Why we want to do certain things. It guides our decisions. We also have the skills part. We talked about preferred skills. And what we know is that the personality-based interests, which we talked about last, they get expressed through our skills. Okay, so they're all very much interrelated. The important thing is, once you know this, like my daughter-in-law, you can start making decisions about your career that you have more confidence in, because you will be able to use this framework to be able to decide, does that make sense? Does that align with my strengths, my values, my skills, my personality-based interests? You're going to be better able to say yes or no. And so what that does, it keeps you more focused. It keeps you from going down a path that isn't going to work for you. And at the end of the day, like I always say, you will thrive and not just survive when you know your YouMap and you know your strengths, values, what motivates you in terms of skills, and what interests you. So what you should do, or your takeaway, is identify your pillars. Understand what makes you unique, because each piece of what I talked about, that makes you very unique. There are very few people who will have exactly the same combination. So when you're in a job hunt, knowing that is really helpful, because when people ask you, well, tell me about yourself, or why do you want this job? Questions like that, you can answer with confidence, because you can go back and say why things are a fit, or why I bring value to your organization. Okay, so that's why I think it's very, very helpful. Again, you can align with all those pillars, whether the career options, to make good decisions. And at the end of the day, what is so important? We have a career that's probably going to be 40 years. Let's spend that doing work that we know that we enjoy, that will engage us, that will be able to bring our best self to that role. We have the opportunity to do this when we know ourselves better. So that's the power of YouMap. And then lastly, there's my contact information. So if you want to get a hold of me, or you want to see more about YouMap, I'm happy to answer questions about it. So Mindy, do we have questions from people?
We're going to ask right now. Shelley, thank you so much. That was, as Marlene said, very comprehensive. Wow, what a great model. So you have Shelley at your disposal. What a great time to ask her a question or two about anything that she talked about, or about the YouMap strategy, or I guess we're open to anything. We would love it. Yes, Jane, thank you for modeling. If you have a question, raise your hand so I can see that you are ready, and you'll come right to the top of our screen. And we'll start with Jane, and anyone else who would like to ask a question, just raise your hand. If you're too shy to raise your hand, you can put your question into the chat and I will say it for you. But let's start with Jane's question and see how we go.
Yeah, I'm one of those people that hates that uncomfortable silence when nobody's doing anything. So I, put my hand up. I don't necessarily have a question right now. I do have my YouMap. I just haven't had anybody go through it with me yet. And I should get back to the person that I did it with, right? But it is, even just sitting here going through it as you were talking, oh my gosh, I realized, why have I not done this? It's a really, really powerful resource to have, not just for getting a job, for anything. It really wakes us up. And by the way, I don't know how many of you have Chat GPT. Do any of you have your AI trained? Well, I asked Chat GPT, based on what you know about me, can you give me my 5 strengths, my 5 values? And it came up with the only one that I had on there was integrity. And Chat GPT had other things to say about me that were, I was like, whoa, yeah, it was kind of right. And so now we're talking about what I thought my core values were. And it's a powerful exercise to go through. Then to put it with the YouMap, it's great. It really can teach you more about yourself than you think you know.
The one thing I like about the YouMap, and thank you, Jane, for saying that, because when I take clients through that, invariably we get these aha moments, because it's sometimes hard. The way I explain it is you sort of know the things that you'll see in the YouMap, but you don't have the language around it. And then when you see it and it says, well, I am, one of the things that's context is in the thinking skills is, oh, I understand how the past, talks about, or when we know the past, we know the present. Oh, I do that naturally. I didn't really even know that there was a name for that. But yeah, I do that. So we get this, once you have the naming of it, it's like when you have a wine bottle and you're the wine in the bottle and there's a label on the outside, you don't know what vintage you are. You don't know what type of grape or anything. But once you can see the label, it's like, aha, that makes sense. So thank you, Jane, for bringing that up and how it's been useful for you.
And Jane, thank you also for modeling the YouMap book. I love that. I do recommend that everyone on the call should go in at some point and ask ChatGPT, what do you know about me? Because it's going to pull up things that you have out there in the universe. And you can be sure if you're looking for a job, a recruiter is going to be doing that anyway. So you might as well figure that out early on so that maybe you can make some adjustments to whatever you're putting out there in the universe. But that is, we used to say, Google yourself. And now I don't say Google yourself anymore. I say, go to ChatGPT or your favorite AI tool and ask them ask it. It's hard to say that. You think of that as a person, but it's not. It's just a tool. Ask the tool what it knows about you, and you'll be surprised to find that out. So, and you are known out there for sure. For sure. Excellent. Thank you, Shelley. Thank you, Jane. Anyone else have a question for Miss Shelley? Lisa's using the he. I think my Chat GPT is a female, but whatever. Oh, Miss Linda Brubaker, join us on the stage.
Hello, Shelley. There we go. Hi there. By the way, thanks for a great presentation. I have a question for you. A lot of people are taking these YouMaps and the Clifton strengths. The question is, how do you recommend that they talk about them in their resume or in their job search stories? Because too many people I've seen are just putting the terms out there, and I'm not sure that does them as much good as they think it does.
That's a really good question. And I do use it with my clients who even if they know exactly what they want to do, because the way that I think about, especially in this market, you cannot be plain vanilla. You have to stand out. And part of standing out is painting the picture of what you can do for that organization and what is your secret sauce. So I love that YouMap gives you some ideas about what makes you unique. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you're in a sales role. You can approach sales in many ways. Like if we use the pillars that we talked about for strengths, you could be very relationship oriented, one-on-one. You could be very influence oriented. You could be very execution oriented. Or you could be a thinker and you're thinking about, how to help this client and being very strategic. You could approach sales in many different directions and be successful. But how you make yourself not vanilla is talking about what you do. And of course, in a resume, explaining that or showcasing that in your bullet points. So as you're talking about your accomplishments, bringing that in. What did you do? Did you do a lot of analysis? Did you do building relationships? Did you figure out how to project manage stuff in that? Did you do a lot of presentations? You could, or a combination, but that helps you stand out. I love also to use it for LinkedIn, especially the About section, because that's a great place to get people to understand a little bit more about what makes you tick. Because at the end of the day, until all we're doing is hiring robots, we hire humans. And any hiring manager wants to know what that human is going to be like who is on their team. So that's a way for you to talk about that in a way that is so compelling that they're going to go, yeah, you're exactly what I need.
Thank you.
So thank you, Linda.
That's a great question, Linda. We always want to differentiate ourselves from all the other candidates out there, right? And we need to showcase what we've done, and you do that with data, right? You do that with explaining how you have gotten from point A to point B. It's really important to add to your strengths as to how you did it, not just what you've done. There was a question, I think it was from, hold on, it was Scott. Somebody asked a question, if they already, Chris, I'm sorry. If they already have the YouMap, can they go through it on their own, or do they need someone to go through it with them? Chris, did I say that correctly? Yes? Yes, he doesn't want to talk, but yes.
Okay. So I'm a certified YouMap coach. And what does that mean? Is that I have been taught how to read the YouMaps and to help the clients get the most out of what it's telling you. So you can certainly, and you can do it separately, but I would always say as a coach that you will get more out of it if you work with somebody who knows how to read it, so that we can ask a lot of questions of you so you get clarification of what that all means, because sometimes you will see contradictory information on the YouMap. And you might just go, well, that doesn't even make sense. But a coach can dig into that to help you understand why it might be that way. And that's a great insight for you to understand, kind of how that YouMap actually is accurate for you.
Chris, does that answer your question? Yes, thumbs up. You got a thumbs up, Shelley. Well, this has been fantastic. I am so thrilled, Shelley, that you were able to speak to our team here today. I think we opened up some eyes today. People got a much better understanding about YouMap, and even broader about how their strengths and their values and all the pillars can help them to get jobs where they thrive and not just survive. I love that. So lots of great insights today. We hope that you have taken away something from today's call. If you love today's call, let's give Shelley some love in the chat and say one thing that you really loved and you learned about today. That would be great. So yeah, Dawn is saying thank you and Anna's saying thank you. Well, thank you so much, Shelley. And thank you all for spending an hour with us. We hope that's huge value for you. Please go in and register for our call with Becky Amble on October 16th. The link is in the chat right now. And remember, please, to hit those 3 dots up on top so we can save the chat. I'm doing it right now as I'm telling you, so I remember that. And yes, Joanne, thank you. We'll help take a deeper dive into ourselves. Yes, we don't always know ourselves as well as we think we do. But anyway, thank you so much. Thank you, Shelley. Everyone, I hope you have a brilliant day. Use some of this information to have that fantastic day that you want to have. And we'll see you all next time. Thanks so much.